Good morning, listeners and viewers. Welcome again to the Real Stuff podcast. This morning on Wednesday, we have our featured guest. So today I have with me, as always, my co-host Courtney and our very special guest, Dr. Collins, out of Guyana. Yes. Morning, Dr. Collins, and welcome to the Real Stuff podcast.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Could you go ahead and tell our viewers a little about yourself?
Well, I'm from Guyana, South America. Most people, I think we have really gone on the international stage when we've discovered oil. So that's above yes. Brazil. So even though we're continental in South America, we have a greater affiliation with the Caribbean, and actually CARICOM is actually headquartered in Guyana. So yes. I lived in South Africa for 4 years. I received South Africa's highest national youth award, which ranked me as one of the most influential youth as a non-citizen.
Wow.
Yeah, when I came back to Guyana in 2012, December, ever since I've done leadership development training, I'm now, I think, going to do over, 1,500 seminars. So I have worked in the previous administration. I have worked with CARICOM itself. I've also was the youngest chairman of the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity. But my passion and commitment is leadership development. So that's in a synopsis. Yeah.
What did you do in South Africa to get that award?
South Africa, I was doing leadership development, interestingly enough. However, I was mentored by Dr. Miles Monroe. He was from the Bahamas, the pastor that passed away in the plane crash. But when I lived in Guyana, I was a medical technologist. And I'm a twin. Both my brother and I were medical technologists. And then I just felt that I needed to do more. And that even though there was nothing wrong with my previous employment, I just felt that purpose and destiny was beckoning. So I wrote a book of poetry, interestingly enough, called The Voice Within His Voice. Yes. And then The Voice Within His Voice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really a journey of self-discovery. So, like, for example, I sought God and found myself, for I am in Him as He is in me. This is neither religion or theology, but the essence of spirituality. Humanity has lost its way, but He remains the potter, as we are the clay. Life has deceived us into making a living when love is all about giving. Time, though infinite, misrepresents the purpose of the fight. We battle for the greater good that is in mankind, not for the place of power to treat each other unkind. There's a presence that envelopes us with peace, and the same accepts us in spite of that unholy peace. We are lost but loved. We are disconnected yet cared for. He shouted and has whispered, call on me whenever you feel separated from the peace that I am. So it is really saying you're not an insignificant drop in the ocean of humanity. You're an ocean within a drop, because greater is used in you than He is in the world. So I try to help the participants of my seminars to create, for want of a better terminology, an environment that they can understand that out of 600 million sperm cells, they were chosen. So they came as winners. So you're not just once in a, 1 in a million or 1 in 600 million, you're once in a lifetime. So it helps you to understand the importance of not being a generational thief. Do not rob from this generation, from this time, the rich deposit that God has deposited within you to give to us. So I believe that everybody, the fact that they are alive is a testimony that there is a destiny that made them necessary. So that is, principally the foundation for what I've actually done in terms of leadership development. But my mentor was really Dr. Miles Monroe.
So you're saying that you have about 1,500 seminars to give?
No, I've actually done over 1,500 seminars since my return.
Already?
Yeah, since my return. I came back to Guyana in 2012, December. So from 2013 to now, it's that. But I've done leadership seminars with the military, with the police, teachers, schools, students, or, throughout the length and breadth of Guyana, the indigenous community. But I have I was involved in politics for a bit, but I've transitioned back into leadership development. I'm now currently the executive director for Zarwin's Consultancy, which had actually started in '92 with Dr. Mavis Ben. So together we are actually doing a seminar on the 3rd of June. We've introduced civility and ethics. I'm also advisor to the King in Ghana, who was once called Sir Clive Rivers. So there's a lot that I'm involved with now, but I always try to be focused on ensuring that we're transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change.
But it begs a question. Mm-hmm. Where do you find the time?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that too a while ago, you know.
The challenge I had while I worked in the political landscape, I literally worked from Sunday to Sunday, early till late, because you could always receive a call and you always have to be on the go. But now, even though my time is occupied, it is what I desire to do, and progressively ensuring that people manifest their greatness and ensure that they live, you know, the Bible talks about the rise and shine for the light has come. So it is how do we help our fellow human beings to understand who they really are and, you know, to manifest that before they leave. It was Dr. Martin Luther King who said, not everyone can be famous, but everyone can be great, because greatness is a matter of service. So it's how do you help persons to understand that they're here for a greater purpose than to be served, but to position themselves or reposition themselves to be of service to humanity. And knowing that leadership is not a position nor is it a title, but is it you understanding who you are, refining who you are, and then serving yourself to humanity and to your time. So, but the time, you know, time really delineates the agenda. And I believe that because we have not done what we ought to have done and we've become satisfied with mediocrity, there is an aggression towards manifesting not only greatness, but your authentic self. And I think most of us, or most in my generation, live far below what they're capable of. And, you know, so it's not, you know, it was Albert Einstein who says, not everything that counts can be counted. And not everything that can be counted counts. So it's just helping you to understand that don't count the number of days, but let your days count. Don't aim to die old, but die empty, because you're here for a specific purpose and a specific reason. So how do you understand that, and how do you manifest? How do you fit in, you know, to that prepared spot and be an inspiration to the world? Yeah.
So in other words, we can assume that you're motivated by your faith.
Yes, yes, certainly. Okay. Even though I'm not defined nor restricted by it, because, for example, I just finished a Culture Day presentation, and, you know, often I usually would say Namaste for those who are Hindus.
Hindus, yes.
Assalamu alaikum for those who are Muslims, and Shalom for those who are Christian and of the Judeo-Christian faith. But I believe we ought to be anchored by what we believe. And, you know, look, for example, the lion is king. The lion is not the tallest animal. He's not the fastest animal. He's not the smartest animal. But he's king because of his belief system, because of his attitude, which is informed by his belief. So we ought to be governed, guided, and anchored by our beliefs, but not limited to. Because as humanity, we're constantly evolving. So I believe we have to leave room for that type of evolution, where, you know, sometimes what I knew yesterday is not what I know now. And how do I allow myself to allow information? Because, for example, before the pandemic, we were not on, you know, these platforms. So a lot of things you did not know yesterday that you know now. So don't be a victim or imprisoned by what you knew. And sometimes our past success can imprison us, that we become so comfortable that, you know, you don't even strive to learn. You don't strive to do more. You don't strive to become or manifest more than what you are. And I think that, yes, I am bound by my faith, but I love to say I'm not limited to it.
Okay.
God is forever evolving. So he's not, and that's why the Bible says he's he say it. So he's still saying.
Yeah.
Now, with all of your leadership roles and your seminars, what's the feedback like?
For example, the leader of the opposition had resigned in January, and I had to, well, I was purposed in my spirit to actually progress or transition back into leadership development. And as soon as I have signaled that, almost every day, I am booked to do a presentation. And working with Zorwin's consultancy, we have scheduled engagement or seminars. For example, the one on the 3rd is another one on the 10th. There is engagement where we train. There's I think I have to go to Linden soon. There's a schedule that, and the demand is phenomenal. So sometimes you wonder, sometimes you just wonder. But the thing is, before I entered the world of politics, I used to do almost 3 seminars per day. So now I am more paced, sometimes it's 3 times a week. It depends. It depends on, but right now I try to pace myself, so to speak. First, you were younger, you had the energy, that was all you're doing. But now you find that there's need for balance. I'm also the PTA president for Campbellville Secondary School, which I have scheduled meetings where I do empowerment and mentorship sessions with the boys in particular. Because when I was re-elected as president, the parents themselves asked that, they were saying, even if I'm not elected, if I can just focus on the boys, don't leave the school, just ensure that you give them some amount of guidance. And I see sometimes that's really what we need is someone to hold, not necessarily hold our hands, but just let us know that, there's a possibility of something else. Something else is possible. Because my first book, my first introduction to Dr. Miles Monroe was Maximizing Your Potential. And I find that sometimes we're victims of our society or our community. So it takes a village to raise a child. So sometimes the mindset, we're socialized into limiting ourselves, into thinking that we cannot rise above the norm, what is considered the norm. So I believe sometimes our youth has to be exposed to more. And, it's like, for example, the eagle, when an eagle builds her nest, it's on a mountain. So the eaglets, they are protected from predators who cannot reach that high. And when they are the first thing they see affects who they become. So you find that there's a science to even just exposure. And now we have the advent of the internet and so forth. Our youths have the tool to be exposed at their fingertips. But it's how do we nudge and guide them towards, instead of watching things that are self-limiting, how do you engage them to want to develop themselves? Because there's nothing worse than a child who doesn't understand what he possesses. Because that instrument, even Facebook, certain sites, you can actually waste time. But once you understand the tool that you have, you can actually use that as a library and gain the necessary information that you need to progress and be in a different state in life.
Are you being booked throughout the wider Caribbean or just Guyana?
That is interesting because I'm scheduled to go to London, I'm scheduled for the US and then Ghana. But it was said that I should find the time to visit the Caribbean. So I am hoping, and that's the thing, it is for people maybe like yourself who would have the level of connections and so on, who could actually make that connection. But remember, it's now that I am back on the leadership development circuit. So some people are not even aware that I am back. So like this platform, hopefully that word gets out. Yeah.
Well, we want to grab you before the word gets out. We have a segment of the Real podcast, what we call CARICOM, which means Caribbean and African Youth Voices. So we'd love to invite you to engage the Caribbean youth to hear what they're thinking, what they want, what they need, and all that.
That'd be
and
great.
you could play a really good role in that for us.
That'd be great. You know
We're
what's
going to be
interesting?
starting back in June, I think. Go
That'd be
ahead.
interesting.
I see you smile.
Because I was the youth advisor for PANCAP, which is
Okay.
a segment of CARICOM. So I was a youth focal point for, but that was dealing with the eradication of HIV and AIDS. So we
Yes.
had a lot of meetings in Trinidad, certain parts of the Caribbean, where we brought youth leaders from the wider Caribbean in one space to deal with a specific topic. So this song's similar to that. Only thing I think it has the African component. And having lived in South Africa, having been exposed to Ghana recently, I just returned from Ghana in last year, August, September, I was there. And having engaged the university students, there were other youth leaders that I did a seminar with. So there is great interest for me in Africa as well as the Caribbean. So I think that would be an excellent platform for us to continue this conversation. Yes.
So that is a yes.
Definitely yes. Definitely yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
wonderful, wonderful. Now we see that we must bring the Caribbean youth and African youth together. You know, because we have done a very poor job, the Caribbean and Africa, in the sense that there's so many people in Africa. There's so many things in the Caribbean, but we don't have any form of trading. You know, we don't have anything without coming together. The whole proximity of Africa to the Caribbean, not to mention that's where our roots are.
You know, when I went to Ghana, Ghana was very different than when I lived in South Africa.
Yes.
Because you could actually see, I visited the castle, Cape Coast Castle, and you could see where our ancestors were kept. And you're never the same after that experience. And I believe, I think we in the Caribbean owe it to ourselves to actually visit at least once. So we appreciate the blood that was shed, the despair, that our forbearance. And when you leave, going towards the ships, there's a doorway that calls the point of no return. And I think that it changes a man, it changes your sense of being, your sense of awareness. You're never the same. And I believe we have a type of recklessness. It was the kids, the children in Israel, they have this museum, Yad Vashem, and you find children from 4, even the military, they pass through that museum so that they never forget the prophecy that happened. And I think as people who have endured even worse atrocities, we have forgotten. And I believe that we owe it to ourselves to remind ourselves from whence we came. So we could say like the Jews and even Nelson Mandela, never again shall that level of atrocity, because the people who have forgotten are condemned to repeat. So I believe there are other forms of enslavement, there's other forms of colonization. And I think there's now a more ghastly form, which is economic colonization.
Yes.
I believe we as a people owe it to ourselves to have a sense of independence. And we could be collaborative, but yet we should be able and capable of mastering our destinies and captaining, you know, being captains of our
yeah, definitely, yes,
you know.
yes.
I believe it is not only necessary, but it should have happened yesterday. That's the level of urgency, to have that cross-pollination, because there's so many things that we could inspire, just exchange in terms of the information. And I think too, our youth have to be tempered, our exuberance have to be tempered by the wisdom and of our elders. And I think we have gotten carried away by the level of the advent of technology and how fast we can do things. But sometimes we need to pace ourselves, and I think that there need to be that cross-generational interdependence where we depend on each other so that we maximize the potential that resides within both, not only the continents and the geographic location, but both age groups. You know,
Oh, yes.
not
Yes,
discard the
definitely.
wisdom that you get just by being alive. You
Oh,
know,
yes.
so I think we really need to be systematic and formulate a plan, just like how you have the United Nations have their SDGs. I think as a body, both the Caribbean and Africa, we should also have, you know, deliverables, an SDG for ourselves, whereby, you know, we are no longer consumers, but we are actually involved in the economic conversation.
Oh,
So
yes.
we're, you know, we're players, not just relegated to consuming and giving raw materials. Why can't we do value added so that there is a greater respect? There's
A
a
greater
greater
earning power.
independence, you know.
Yeah. So, Dr. Collins, talk about an organization that you have formed, I Change Nations.
Oh, I haven't formed it. That is Sir Clive Rivers. And I think it was a brilliant initiative. He believed that the honor system, and I actually learned this in South Africa, the spirit of Ubuntu. I am because we are, and what affects you will also affect me. What diminishes you will also diminish me. No one man can rise above the condition of the masses. And what Dr. Rivers, Sir Clive Rivers, was attempting to do, and I believe he was successful in doing. I think I Change Nations in 150 something countries now, where he has honored the new present day heroes, past presidents, government officials, the common ordinary man who has literally lived his life to make a change, his or her life, to affect change in their society and community. So there's a number of awards. I even have an award in my name, the I Change Nations Astell Collins Global Inspiration Award, which when I was running for the local government in my country, so Rivers brought, I think, a delegation of 12 received deserving recipients from the US. And so it's just a culture. He has created a new culture of honor where you identify and celebrate ordinary individuals, some who are in higher office, government office, but industry leaders, and to the common man, where you can identify talent, abilities, gifts, and strengths, and so that you have current modern day heroes where the next generation can look up to and aspire to and even surpass. But you know, a lot of people soon may forget about the efforts and the successes of Dr. Martin Luther King, but who have we trained, who have we cultivated to actually carry on that spirit, that philosophy, that you know, that's why I say leadership is not about the position, but your disposition. So how do we develop selfless leaders that, you know, have character and allow their character to be the cradle of their credibility? So I believe that I applaud Dr. Clyde Rivers for forming I Change Nations, where he has really developed and reintroduced the spirit of honor, where, you know, people who have done service to humanity can be honored, and you don't have to go to like the Oscars and so on, but you are honored in your own nation. Sometimes people travel to receive the awards and so on. Like, for example, I received an award at Capitol Hill, the Global Leadership Award, because of the work I would have done in my country. And now I am somewhat of an inspiration globally because of that honor system. So it was Dr. Clyde Rivers who had actually started that. But I'm a part of that that family and culture, so to speak.
So you spoke about books. Can you speak a little about?
When I lived in South Africa, I was working with Itwala and the Miles Monroe International. This was an office headed by Charlie Masalo, who, well, Dr. Monroe has written a number of books, I think over 70 or 80 books, and a lot of them were bestsellers. So he would have, and he addressed a number of topics. So you would have like the potential pack. So you'd have maximizing your potential, understanding your potential. There are various books on potential. There is the leadership pack, where you have a number of books on leadership development. There is also on the kingdom of God. So it's not just religion, but understanding that Christ was a king and how do you apply the concept of the kingdom, and not just religion, because Christ was not religious, he was not a religious leader, but he was a king. So I was able to read a lot of those materials and was able to actually, just by conversing with persons, help them to understand or help them to decide which book is, or which path is best suited for them for where they are in their leadership journey. So, but I've written one book, The Voice Within His Voice is a book of a combination of poetry. But I have, through my leadership development seminars, I would have given away a lot of Dr. Miles Monroe's book, which I considered necessary reading.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Courtney, you're about to come in?
No, well, you know, because he had told me before that he's a poet, so, you know, I have actually going to reserve him for a date in our poetry corner, you know, for in next month, you know, so, you know, we'll talk about
another segment we have, poetry corner, which is very, very popular. Very, very popular.
Yeah.
Poetry is really good and really thriving now.
I believe it's like, you know, like if you have a drink and you have a concentrate, poetry to me is like a concentrate, and you can actually develop it and not water it down, but you can expand on concepts and phraseologies and so forth. So I believe poetry is a language of the gods.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
So I'd love to be a part of that initiative.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And we definitely would have to have you back, you know.
Yeah.
Like today, you know, speaking more about your work.
I'd appreciate that. I appreciate
it's very interesting, very engaging, I would say.
Thank you very much.
And that is really wonderful. So
Thank
you put the medical thing behind you now?
Yes.
Sometime.
When I studied medical technology, it was just, I think, the next step, something to do, but it wasn't what I was committed to. It wasn't what I was passionate about. And having discovered what I was created to do, it was a different ball game. It was a different level of satisfaction and gratification. So that, you know, that's why I say you could actually study away from your purpose. You know, I often in my seminars stand up on a chair and demonstrate that ignorance of purpose leads to inevitable abuse, because you can be successfully wrong. So the concept of, because I studied, I have to be a prisoner of what I studied. Yes. I show that is not necessarily so, because I am not doing what I necessarily studied for or what I'm degreed for, because you can literally be certified, but your certification can disqualify you, because it is not what you think you ought to be doing, but it's what God has created for you to do. And that's why I say, when I stand on the chair, I said, in the mind of the maker, I am abusing the chair. Even though if there's a large gathering, I can stand on the chair and use it successfully as a slave. So I said, as a stage. So I often tell the students that, or the participants, you can be successfully wrong. Because if I stand on the chair, yes, it is being used as a stage, but in the mind of the maker, in the mind of the manufacturer, I am abusing the chair because I am abnormally using the chair. So most of us involved in self-abuse, self-inflicted abuse, where we abuse ourselves, abuse our talents, abuse our lives. You know, that's why they say evil is when you live your life or live backward. L-I-V-E is E-V-I-L. So you're being evil when you live in contradiction to the life you should have lived.
Or should be living. Yes.
Very interesting. But,
yes, it is.
Dr. Collins, what is PANCAP? I see that you're an advisor for PANCAP.
I was an advisor at PANCAP. PANCAP is the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS. That's the period I worked at CARICOM was under PANCAP, which that's what I was saying. It made me, I was like the youth focal point for the eradication of HIV and AIDS. We dealt with a lot of issues concerning youth, especially the key population, the LGBTQ community. So PANCAP, I think there was a global funding where you receive resources to actually formulate groups and initiatives and policies that can actually spearhead the eradication of HIV and AIDS. So that is my stint at PANCAP. I also was the youngest chairman of the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity when Habitat was actually in Guyana. And that was an initiative for the eradication of homelessness, whereby you can have home in not the regular costing for a house. Habitat had what it was called sweat equity, where you can actually work on your home and you get it at a reduced price and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
I know somebody who actually did that.
Okay.
In Florida.
Okay.
Where is Habitat now? I haven't heard much about Habitat lately.
They left Guyana a while ago. A number of years ago, they had actually left Guyana. They were consolidating because I think when we discovered oil, we were no longer poor and highly indebted. So they were concentrating on countries that they believed needed their services. And Guyana is less than 1 million people. So there was a thing somewhere in South America that had millions that were destitute. So I think they wanted to consolidate their efforts to where the need was greater. So that is how they had actually left Guyana and gone, I think it's somewhere in the South America.
Okay.
Wow. Well, I was Flavius, I'd ask you earlier on about, where do you find the time from? Do you have any time
Tips,
management ideas that you could pass on to us right here?
Yes.
I often tell my son, I'm a father of 2 sons. I have one who is 10 and the other one will be 5 November. And I tell my 10-year-old, I said, do what you have to do when you have to do it, so you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. And when you discover passion and a sense of purpose, you enjoy. That's what I said. If you do what you were created to do and born to do, you would never work a day in your life. So even though your time is occupied, it doesn't seem as if you are busy. And I think a lot of ineffective people love to say, I am busy. But if you can be occupied or progressively realizing an idea or an ideal. But I don't like the word busy, because it's like if you have no control of your time or control of your life, because literally time is life. If I give you $1 billion, you need time to spend it. If I said you either have another 5 years or you have 1 day with $1 billion. So you really need time in order to, and the greatest resource we're given is time. Whatever you mismanage, you will lose. They say, I can lose 5 million and I get it back. I can lose my house, I can lose my car and get it back. But if I lose 5 minutes, I can't get it back. So our most valuable resource is time. And nobody teaches time management as we do financial management and all of that. So our greatest asset is our time. So we constantly say we're going to chill, we're going to spend time, but we never invest it. Because whatever you sow, so shall you reap. So if I invest, that's what you're saying, a man who has a degree is just someone who have invested time in getting that degree, that's all. A degree, a master's is just telling you what you did with your time. So to me, it is first taking the journey of self-discovery, where you can identify your talents, abilities, gifts, and strengths, you refine it, and then you serve it to the world. So people, when you understand who you are, when you have a sense of purpose and a sense of destiny, you really know who you are, people pay you to be yourself.
Yes.
You pay to be yourself. So you don't have to, that's why we're frustrated. That's why we have a lot of people die on Mondays, because they're going to a space, a place, a work that they are not. They're going away from themselves. They are, they say, there's a difference between your job and your work. Your job is what you're trained to do. Your work is what you're born to do. Your job is your career, but your work is your life assignment. You can be hired and fired from your job, but never your work. Finding your work protects you from the imprisonment of a job. Because when you get a job, they tell you when to get up and go to work, because depending on where you live, how far you have to go, if it's an hour drive, whatever. They tell you when you can take a break, they tell you when you can take lunch, they tell you when you can go home, they tell you if you can have a vacation. That's why some of us pretend to be sick just to get time. You know. So I think it's really you taking time to understand who you are, why you're here. And you know, the fundamental questions, I think, especially over you, they ask, do you hear me, do you see me, and do I matter? So I ask my participants, who are you? Why are you here? And what is the destiny that made you necessary? Who are you? Why are you here? And what is the destiny that made you necessary? Because when you discover that there is indeed a destiny that made me necessary, you understand that the fact that I'm alive testifies that there is a destiny. That's why I'm necessary. So you carry yourself differently. You know, if I know I have to live to be 70 to manifest a particular purpose or a destiny, there's certain things I wouldn't do. I wouldn't drink, I wouldn't smoke. There's certain reckless behaviors I wouldn't indulge in, because I know I have a purpose and a destiny which I'm responsible for manifesting. And because I am uniquely and divinely created to profess and manifest that particular destiny, I know I have a responsibility to be responsible.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we can end on that note, Courtney.
Thank you for having me, sir.
So, Courtney, you know, make the necessary arrangements so we can have Dr. Collins back as soon as possible.
Thank you very much.
And as we book out our CARICOM coming up starting in June, you know, speak to him also about that.
Definitely with, yes.
And thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Collins.
Yes.
Thank you.
As we move out, we'll ask Queen Lubafu to give us the Our Father in the Garifuna language, and Tafino to take us out.
You lead us to Fula. You belong far away away. Ajugwala Lebobu Seru. Leader Mua, leader Sungfula. Leader Mua, leader Sungfula.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer sorrow. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me do what set me a figure flee. Me have to take away me say. Me have